Welcome to the TNC Random Fandom podcast. We are here to have fun and talk all things pop culture, collecting, and nerd culture in general. Make sure you join the conversation during our live stream with our most excellent hosts, Craig Borden and Tommy Mock. Let the shenanigans begin.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the TNC Random Fandom podcast. I am your host, Mr. Tommy Mock, and with me, as always, is Craig Borden. How are you, good sir?
Doing good, buddy. Outside of the obvious hurtful topic that we got to talk about tonight, everything else is going pretty splendid, though.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. So tonight we are doing another icon episode, the ultimate icon episode, where we get to discuss the life and career and legacy of Mr. Ozzy Osbourne. We lost Ozzy on the 22nd of July, which was a mere 5 days ago. And anybody who has any type of social media probably was inundated with tributes and videos and music of Ozzy. And whether you're a fan or not, I know you know who Ozzy Osbourne is. And I'm very it's sad the topic that we have to discuss tonight, but I am very, very excited for our guest because we are bringing back one of our friends to the show. Everybody might remember him from our game show episode, Mr. Tim Sternberg. And
there he is.
Hey, gentlemen.
And for the first time, I get to bring on one of my family members, my one, the only fruits of my loins, my kid, JT Mock, also known as Jigs. So if you hear me say Jigs, that is my kid. Welcome, everybody.
Here.
Welcome.
Hello, gentlemen.
Yep.
So obviously we brought you guys on to be on our episode because I know, Tim, you put out your own kind of content on social media, on Instagram, where you were talking about basically what Ozzy meant to you, being a metalhead as a younger person in the Gen X realm, if you will. And
you call me old?
What's that?
Are you calling me old? Oh, kidding.
Well, and then I'm trying to be nice.
I'm kidding.
But I also wanted to bring JT on. I wanted to bring Jigs on because Jigs' first concert I took was Ozfest, and Jigs, you were 9 years old.
I was 9 years old, yeah.
9 years old. And I'd like to say that a lot of people are always influenced by their musical taste are always influenced by what they grew up listening to. And
100%.
Jigs got to listen to Def Leppard and just Guns N' Roses, all the stuff that I listened to, she listened to, and everything that I listened or that I grew up listening to came from my parents. So it's kind of generational how you bring the younger generation around. So that is the reason why I have Jigs on, because our first real concert experience was Ozfest, and if I remember correctly, that was 2010, and Oz brought out a 9-year-old guitar virtuoso and played the solo to Crazy Train. And I know you can probably YouTube this, you can find it, it's fantastic, but I've done enough talking, so I'm going to leave it at this point and say I heard Tobias, the lead singer of the band Ghost, say something that I think is 100% true in describing Ozzy Osbourne, and that is he was considered or called the Prince of Darkness, but yet he brought a lot of light, and I honestly do truly believe that. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let you guys jump in and tell us your own personal whether you have your own personal story or just what Ozzy means to you. So you know what, Tim, I'm going to let you go first, and Craig, I'm going to let you go last.
Well, I mean, I first of all, you raised Jigs right. I mean, to be at 9 years old going to Ozfest, that's the way to go. I love that, Tommy. Um,
Absolutely.
I will say, my love for Ozzy goes back to, I think I was even younger than Jigs. In the early '80s, I remember, I was a metalhead kid growing up, as you mentioned, as a Gen Xer. I was born in the '70s, grew up in the '80s. So that was key Ozzy Osbourne time. After he left Black Sabbath, of course, and he went
Mhm.
solo, first starting, of course, with Randy Rhoads and that first album with Crazy Train, and then unfortunately Randy's untimely death, that is, in a plane crash. And then Ozzy had to kind of continue on, and that was a major impact on Ozzy Osbourne when Randy Rhoads was killed in that plane crash. But as a kid, I remember being amazed at him. I was always like the counterculture kind of kid. So growing up, I loved heavy metal because it was supposed to be the bad music, where they went to the PMRC to fight for like censorship, and you saw D. Snyder going to Congress, and Ozzy was that representation of what was supposedly quote unquote bad. He bit a head off a bat, which was actually an accident that happened. So he represented that. He was like the ultimate sinner. He had Bark at the Moon. He was that counter. But really, in general, if you really knew Ozzy Osbourne, you knew that he was a teddy bear. You knew he was a kind soul. The music rocked. But if you listen truly to the music, a lyric out of Crazy Train, for example, is maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. I don't know how that's like hateful music at all, and that was one of his first songs. So I remember
Yeah.
like going Ultimate Sin tour. He opened up for Metallica in 1986. I remember going to that concert. I remember later on seeing Guns N' Roses opening for Ozzy. It's just that's my childhood, and I remember the picture disc I had for Bark at the Moon. It was the coolest thing. And for those of you who are really young, we used to have this thing. It kind of came back called records, and we used to have like pictures on a record. And I had a picture of that album on the record. So yeah, that it takes you back a little bit. But Ozzy's always been part of my life.
Jigs definitely knows what vinyl is because she has Jigs has her own has a good collection, don't you?
You
I
raised,
do. I do.
like
I
I said, you raised her right. You raised her right.
So go ahead, Jigs.
So like you said, my first concert was in fact Ozfest. I remember being so excited because you were just kind of like nonchalant about it because we were all gonna go as like a whole family kind of thing, and um, I mean this was eons ago at this point. Um, I'm old now.
15 years.
Yeah, I'm not old now. I'm 24. Um, but yeah, I remember seeing uh like when we first got there, I think Black Label Society was already playing.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Um, and I recognized hearing Stillborn because we would play it on Guitar Hero together.
Yeah, you
Um,
would.
yeah, you taught me how to do the power stance and everything. It was fantastic. And I
Whole
remember
school of rock
before.
moment.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like my dad raised me on that movie too. One of my favorites to this day. Um, but I think it was Motley Crue that opened for
Yep.
Ozzy.
Yep.
So that was the first time I saw Motley Crue. I've seen them twice, and then I met Nikki Six. Not to brag.
Yep.
Um, he pulled me up on stage
Wow.
and
Up on
everything, but
stage.
whatever. I still have
Just
that
met
picture
Nikki
framed.
Six.
No big deal. No big deal.
No big
No
deal.
big deal.
But
Just one of the originators of Motley Crue. That's all.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
whatever. But
So
I remember like Ozzy had like this whole, like before he came out on stage with his band, he had like this big screen playing with a bunch of just like random clips, and I remember specifically there was like a Twilight one and like a Jersey Shore one where he just like inserted himself in it, and then Ozzy comes out and I just immediately start crying, not because I was scared, even given his reputation and influence and everything, but like it's Ozzy Osbourne in the flesh right in front of my face, and it's like a living legend like right in front of me, and it was just one of the most like insane experiences of my life. And then for Crazy Train, he brings out this little Japanese boy like my age at the time. He was 9 years old, and he just starts shredding to Crazy Train like during the solo. And Ozzy was, he was still old, like he like hobbles over and like picks him up like Randy Rhoads style, like over his shoulder, like his arm under his legs, and like this kid's just playing and playing, and Ozzy's like beaming. And I just remember thinking like that is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my entire life up until this point.
Yeah. And he even had the polka dot guitar, the kid.
He
that was
did.
the better part.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
it was
just
flying
cherry
V.
on top.
Exactly. It was
Unbelievable.
that is a core memory. Like I remember like the day that Ozzy died, I was online with some of my friends. We were like having an Ozzy listening party, and then I sent a link to that video, and I was like, I was there for that. I saw that with my own 2 eyes in person, and you should all be jealous of me because that was wicked cool. But that's like one of my fondest memories of Ozzy. Like I went as Ozzy for Halloween a few years ago when I was like 15. I've had this shirt since then. Like Ozzy has been a huge part of my life, and I wept like a baby when I found out about his. Like I wept as if I knew the man personally. But
So before Craig gets in there, I just want to say one other act that Jigs got to see that episode, or not that episode, but that concert. Rob Halford of Judas Priest was also on that. So Jigs got to see.
That was where I went to.
Got to see like rock royalty.
Living After Midnight.
Oh God, it's awesome. I'm
love
sorry, I didn't mean to jump in
like
that, but
my only question is, where did you guys go? Because I went and drove to Pittsburgh for that, and I literally had my gallbladder out 2 days before that, so I still had stitches.
Wow.
We were in.
I'm like, I'm not stopping. I'm going.
Yeah.
Period.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd still go too.
Illinois.
Yes, in Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but yeah, so I also went and saw that same tour for Ozfest. I went. And the one, I think it was the one right before that, it had Korn and a few others that were really, really good too. But that one wasn't the same as that one that you two went to, because it was just like rock royalty, to your point. There was plenty of other bands that went on before Black Label and everything that were really good. But the first few Ozfests were System of a Down, and all these other bands that were on their, upcoming at that point for, my age group at that time. And it was just incredible to see the two that I got a chance to go to, both of them in Pittsburgh, in the middle of freaking nowhere outside the city, kind of like when we go to Darien Lake here in Rochester. But it was a great time. And like I said, but as far as Ozzy goes, same thing to what you two have, that, I'm sitting in the living room, when, there's nothing good on TV, and my dad's got records playing, and he's playing, all these wonderful ones that are, I'll say the more soft listening ones, like Tom Petty, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, and all that kind of stuff like that. But then Crazy Train comes on, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, this is a little bit more going. So then you get into, Blizzard of Oz fully, and then you get into Bark at the Moon. It was those pieces that him and I had back and forth. And it was like something kind of like we were hiding from my mom, even though she didn't have a thing against Ozzy Osbourne. It was just a little on the downside. So, but he was pop culture for me, being 40. So when I was getting really into music, playing drums and goofing around, playing Black Sabbath was always the easy thing to play right off the bat, and play some good drum beats and play some good guitar riffs, and really just get moving, right? And it was always something that was like common, no matter who you were playing with as far as musical talents go. It was just known, and you were able to go do it. and I just can't say enough good things. And like I said, I was like dumbfounded. I still don't think it's really set in that he is no longer of this earth. It's just still one of those things that's like, he's going to really outlive all of us. You know, he's going to be around with sharing cockroaches by the end of this whole thing. And, you know,
they have said that he is like a genetic mutant, like his like from the cellular level, he has been mutated. And that's the reason why he was able to put his body through hell and you know,
like a DNA
and still,
him and a
still
bunch
survive,
of people
you know,
could like live longer or whatever, could just survive more. And they found like he was literally more caveman in a DNA level than most people or something like that. It was just, it might be just one of those wonderful rock and roll myths too, like the Motley Crue story that I'm sure that you all heard about or seen during, if you saw the Motley Crue movie or the books and everything. Apparently he was a little coked up by the pool one day and decided to snort the fire ants. But the problem was right before that, Nikki Sixx peed on them, and then he lapped it all up. So it's like, so a little wild, a little crazy. It is what it is. But those are the kind of things that outside the musical talent and everything, he was a character that is never going to die. It's just that simple.
So my story.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say to your point, Tommy. I mean, I grew up. My mom's a boomer. My mom's a baby boomer, and she's 20 years older than me, and she listens to this. I used to buy these records, and she would listen to them. I mean, that's how much my mom loved them, and she grew up in the time during Frankie Valli and all that. So that's how he really transferred through different generations of music.
Right. You know, and so the reason why I say, you know, your musical tastes tend to gravitate towards where you kind of what you grew up listening to. So I grew up listening to the Fleetwood Macs and you know, the Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, you know, those kinds of things. But my dad had always loved the song War Pigs, and we had the vinyl of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and we had the and then I also think we had Paranoid, which is what War Pigs actually came from, but that album was supposed to be called War Pigs. But to be honest with you, when I was younger, Ozzy scared me. And because even at an early age, I really got into listening to the lyrics and everything and hearing it. And Tim, you might remember this. Remember there was a movie that had I can't remember what his name is. Big burly guy, had a beard. But he was narrating, and it was a movie about Nostradamus, and it was called The Man Who Saw Tomorrow. And and that movie scared me because it was about Nostradamus predicting the wars and when the earth was going to end. When you're a young kid, 5 years old, 6 years old, and you're seeing this stuff, it kind of freaks you out. And to me, listening to War Pigs for the first time as a little kid, I'm thinking, holy, this is Nostradamus type shit. But as I got older and my musical taste kind of started to take control and I started liking more and more of the harder stuff, that's when like Ultimate Sin came out, and I was like, oh, I remember Ozzy. And then, sometimes you kind of backtrack a little bit, because I was always one of those, if I got introduced to a band that has been around for a while, but I've only heard something, I would always try to go back and hear like the previous catalog and own the previous catalog. And when I first heard God, now I'm just drawing a blank, but Crazy Train, I was very critical of Crazy Train. And the reason why is because Crazy Train has this really killer opening riff. And I mean, that opening riff kind of tells you, wow, this is going to be and the title kind of tells you this is going to be an epic kind of like punch you in the face song. But after that opening riff, it kind of goes, dun, 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 dun. It's like, okay, come on. But now, again, being a guy who appreciates good songwriting, good lyrics, lyrics that tell a story, just like you said, that opening line, that opening stanza of that song, basically it's saying, you know what? We live in a freaking stupid ass world where everybody hates each other. Why can't we just learn how to love and forget about hate? And honestly, those words right now
are timely, right?
Are needed
That's
so much more
important.
this day and time than any other time, I would say, because it's so poignant. Why are millions of people living as foes? You know, exactly. There's no reason for us. This is 2025. We should not have any hate in our hearts, in our souls, but unfortunately we do. And okay, soapbox moment off.
Anyway,
you know, so but again, I appreciate having you guys on there because I want to have a different perspective of everybody's thoughts, because everybody knows all the mythos, and Ozzy honestly is a person who personifies the old adage of the man, the myth, the legend, because all the stories we've ever heard about him and it's like, oh, they're so goofy and stuff, turn out to be true. he said it.
Or some gotten bigger than the story of.
He did bite a head off a bat. That did happen. Actually happen. Yeah.
Yep.
It was an accident. He said he thought it was a toy. So when he did it, he was kind of shocked when he realized that it was an actual bat. But the press
straight to the hospital.
Straight to the hospital because of rabies, and but it took off as this legendary story of who Ozzy Osbourne was, and I feel like Ozzy was all the stories that he was, but when you really dig down into it, he was that guy from the Osbournes, from the reality show. He was that dad. He was that gentle giant. He was that. I think that was what was lovable about Ozzy, was that at the end of the day, he was just a dude sitting on the couch at home with his family, and that's who he was. But he had this mythos, like you said, of this bite the head off the bat. Dark, he was dark. He was brooding. He was scary to kids, as you mentioned. But in the end of the day, he wasn't really that at all. He was this brilliant musician, singer, really, and he didn't even play an instrument. He was just an amazing vocalist and writer of songs, and just every single song that he's ever put out, I've just been in awe of, from all the way back to his stuff with Black Sabbath to the latest stuff that he released before he passed away. I just he's just, there's nobody ever going to be like him. They basically, Ozzy was born and that's it. There's only ever going to be one Ozzy.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the Osbournes thing, because that's the my generation part. That was like 100%. Like, we had Ozzy everything in the late 90s going into the 2000s, because he was pop culture at that time. And I like how you touched on the mythos and what he is seen as, and the bat biting and all that kind of stuff like that, Tim. But the one that stood out to me is that he also owns that persona too. He doesn't let anybody else just play with it. So he's 100% his own character of his own creating, good or bad for that matter, because he even says that in a lot of his songs. But there was one specific thing from the Osbournes that I will 1000% never get out of my head, because that whole scene is drilled into my brain. They were practicing and rehearsing the stage show for the Christmas Ozfest special, and he's just seeing everything unfold. Everything's fine. He's sitting there going, okay, yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, how about this? How about that? And then all of a sudden the sleigh comes out of the right side of the stage, and it's got bubbles coming out the back of it, and he yells, Sharon! What is this shit? And then she comes over and goes, what is it, Ozzy? And she goes,
fucking bubbles coming out of my ass.
What the fuck's with the bubbles? You can't put bubbles on my sleigh.
the reaction.
Good balls on the sleigh.
Dying. It's just the mannerisms, everything. It's ingrained in my skull, and that memory is never gonna leave. It was just perfect.
What about him and the cat? You know, him and the cat, and just the reaction between the cat. I found the counter Ozzy so funny and so enthralling. I think that's what made that show so special too. Is the fact that everyone had this picture of who Ozzy was, and to
There's
see him
nothing.
react to these things, it was nothing like it. Right.
He's just a guy, to your point.
One
Right.
of my favorite moments from the Osbourne show was like, it's a clip I keep seeing because people keep posting it. It's so iconic. It's just Ozzy comes out of his bedroom and he's like, "Someone has come into my room and stolen my beer." And then Sharon's like, "You're the beer thief, Ozzy." And he just goes,
That's pretty good.
he's just like,
Well done,
It's-
JC.
it's
pretty
so
good.
it's so funny because like he like everyone said, like everyone, like the media, whatever, paints this picture that he is like this scary, satanic, demonic dude, and then he can't remember the fact that he drank all of his own beer. And Sharon, ever the mediator, just so calm and collected, so loving, is just like, "No, Ozzy, that's not the case. It's okay." And he's just like, "Whatever, okay." And he was just a guy. Like you said, it's like he was Ozzy. Like he was a
Yeah.
character, he's the artist. Like there's
Craig, we're just
never
gonna
going
keep
to be another Ozzy.
JT on the show and just let just to do impersonations throughout the whole
I
thing.
do the Sharon voice over all
Sharon
of us all the
voice.
time.
Ozzy,
No,
Ozzy.
Tommy. Dad.
So
Do that.
and I'm glad you guys brought that up, because when it comes to the Osbourne show, I think there was parts of it that actually that were kind of sad, because you do see Ozzy in this kind of almost very frail depiction, and I know that there were rumors that Sharon was purposely keeping him kind of, in a dazed and confused kind of way, just to keep the show going for ratings and stuff like that. And I know that those rumors were dispelled and everything. But what I
He
love,
also got really hurt during the last season of that show too.
Oh,
That's where he had the
yeah.
accident.
yeah.
So
And that's the other part of this too, is that what I love the most is that we kind of had that whole persona kind of just destroyed in front of us when you had this show, but it was almost like people forget there was two Ozzies. You had a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing. You had Ozzy the family man at home, but the moment he put on the eyeliner and he freaking put on the clothes and everything, all of a sudden he's the Prince of Darkness one more time, and we completely forget that he was this bumbling dad trying to figure out how the remote control works.
It's all in the little glasses he wore. It was
Yes.
always the glasses. He put those on and he's the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
Slash
I will
Witch
say-
Combat.
I will say there was plenty of Ozzy moments sprinkled in on that whole thing. There was one episode where he was like, I'll say in an argument with his neighbor or something like that that's next door, and all of a sudden it's like he was playing music too loud, the neighbor was, and he goes, "Oh, I can beat you on that one." And cranks it up to 11 and is playing Mr. Tinker Train loud.
Is that the same episode?
rock
Is that the
going
same
everywhere.
episode where Sharon threw the ham over the fence?
Yes, it's that one. They were having like a feud with the rich neighbor next door.
So
To your
I have
point,
almost- Go ahead, Tim.
I was just gonna say, to your point, Tommy, about Ozzy making decisions and Sharon kind of guiding everything. Yeah, Sharon was definitely the ultimate manager, but I will say I think that all the decisions were always Ozzy's at the end of the day. I mean, there's a great picture, and it broke my heart kind of his last concert a couple of weeks ago that he did, his farewell concert, and there's a picture of Sharon just sitting there off to the side of the stage looking at him with like this love but concern. And I feel like that really kind of says and sets the stage of how their relationship was, and she really helped guide him, but at the end of the day he made those decisions. And if it was up to her, I'm sure he wouldn't have done that concert, but she always supported what he wanted to do, and I believe that that was his full decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
I actually have
I
that picture.
agree.
If anybody
Ozzy
hasn't seen it.
had said,
Yeah,
like,
go ahead. Pull it up.
Oh,
Yeah. So
There it is.
Yeah,
That
I
broke
agree.
my
It
heart.
is. So
that's
it was
that's awesome.
like I said, a little close to home on that one because obviously you're losing him, and well, I know we're going to talk about the farewell show and at some point, but go JT. I want you to be able to get your thought out.
yeah. But like Ozzy said, like he was going to perform until the day that he died, and I think the farewell show like proves that to be 100% true. He meant what he said, and like he went out. It was like a living funeral in a way.
Mhm.
He got to go out the way he wanted. Like he got to say thank you and essentially goodbye to those he loved and those he performed with in the past. And like all of his friends were there, all of his fellow performers were there. There were so many people there. Like I'd seen a clip of Maynard James Keenan, Tool, A Perfect Circle, Pussifer frontman singing Crazy Train. Like it was just astounding. It was just a moment in rock and roll history that I think people are going to like kind of set as a standard in a way.
It was it's I'm glad you said that because to me, in a way, like you were saying, it was he was leaving on his own terms and playing all the way up until his very end. It was almost as if he was eulogizing himself.
Hmm.
He was giving his own
Yeah.
eulogy. You know,
It's the way we would all want to go out that way. I think to have
I
that
was gonna
kind
say
of
I would want to be surrounded
Yeah.
by my friends, goof around
Yeah.
one last time, and literally ride off into the sunset. I was not expecting him to die right after that show.
I was shocked. Yeah.
But
100%.
especially when he looked like he was having a rough time, but he still was him. He still sounded incredible in the clips I've heard and everything else. And not to mention just some of the videos. You see the video with Youngblood before the show where he actually gifted him a cross because Ozzy gifted him a cross many years back. He was still coherent. He was still with it. It wasn't anything crazy. And unfortunately, that's just how life goes sometimes. And you miss out on a piece of somebody like this that's going to be around to keep that crazy train going just a little bit longer, right?
I often see things where people, I know there's like the conspiracy theorists where people were saying that Ozzy knew he was dying or he had an assisted suicide ready to go because he didn't want to live any longer. He wanted to basically, again, these were just speculations and stuff like that. I do believe that he knew his time was up. And I think this was his way, his magnum opus, his way of saying, Ominous Dominus, I'm out. I love you all. As he always says, I love you all. And I truly believe that he did. He loved his fans. He loved his friends and his family. And that was the ultimate goodbye in my. So I'm going to go around the table here, and I want to ask the question, and I'll start with Jigs. When you first saw, because now let me preface this. Last week was a really crappy week for celebrities. Let's just put it that way. Some tragic deaths, and some just kind of didn't even know, that was coming down the pipe, but I know that a lot of times I pick up and I look up Instagram and I'm like, oh crap, this person died. That sucks, but Craig and I actually had talked about celebrities in the past whose actually passing has actually kind of made us feel, have an actual reaction, like a real truly reaction, like we're like we lost somebody that was important to us. Jigs, tell us what you were feeling when you found out that we lost Ozzy last week or earlier this week.
So he died it was Tuesday the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
I had, funnily enough, I had just gotten out of therapy. And I was sitting in my car and I checked my phone, and the first thing that I saw was Ozzy Osbourne dead age 76. I almost walked right back into that building and was like, free up another hour. We got to talk. Like, I remember it so clearly. Like, I just, like, as soon as I read that headline, like, my eyes welled up with tears. Like, I wasn't lying when I said that I cried. Like, I wept like an infant as if I had really lost, like, an actual loved one. Because, like, Ozzy had always been so omnipresent, like, in my life. Like, it was getting to a point where, like, because I would, funnily enough, I would, like, check in on him, like, every week. And I'd been doing that for, like, a few years at this point, just because, kind of like for shits and giggles, I guess. Pardon my French. Um, but, like, I would check in every now and again, just be like, is he still alive? Because at that point, it, like, as time went on, it started to feel like he was immortal. Because, like, after all the drugs he'd done, after everything he'd gone through, like, after everything in his whole life, it was getting harder and harder to believe that he would ever die. And then suddenly he does, and it felt like a slap in the face. Like, not in, like, an I'm offended kind of way, but it's like a, oh my God, it actually happened.
An ear
And
surprise.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it just, like, my heart shattered as if I knew him personally. And, like, again, like Craig said much earlier, like, it still feels so surreal. Like, such a legend has left this plane of existence, but, like, seeing, like, because I follow a lot of, like, musicians and things on Instagram just to, like, keep up with, like, new releases or anything like that. And, like, it's just post after post after post of, like, this is how Ozzy helped me get to where I am. This is how Ozzy influenced my style of music. This is Ozzy's influence, and this is what he meant to me. And it's just like, he was so just important, like a force to be reckoned with. And, like, everyone keeps saying there will never be another Ozzy. And it's just true, frankly.
What about you, Tim? What do you
Wow.
you look, Tim? I'm looking looking at you at the screen, and you look like you're shedding a tear. I can't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I growing up as a kid in Brooklyn in the 70s and 80s, music was my escape. I was bullied as a kid. So growing up, I would literally escape after school, go home, get my turntable and listen to rock for hours and hours and pretend that I was somewhere anywhere else other than where I was in my current space, and so growing up, like Ozzy was my best friend, and so was every other artist that I listened to. So I would literally put on the music and pretend that I was there at the concert with him, and it was a real big escape for me. So yeah, it was pretty momentous hearing that he passed away. It was like a lifelong friend had died. Yeah, it's really something. I mean, it makes me think back at how much music meant to me as that kid growing up, being bullied, and it was huge. I mean, in the 80s, they didn't have like anti-bullying this or that. It was like you had to buck up and deal with it as a kid. So in the 80s,
Yeah,
and that's the way I dealt with it, was like through escape of buying albums and listening to Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica, Def Leppard. That was my escape. And so Ozzy was huge. I mean, I remember going to the Englishtown Market in New Jersey and buying Paranoid used, and smelling that vinyl and playing that picture. I remember the album cover was really dark, and I remember hearing Paranoid really for the first time on vinyl, not on the radio, and just something about it clicked, and I was a fan, I from Black Sabbath on. And so Ozzy was paramount to my fandom growing up as a kid, music wise. And yeah, it's pretty, it hurts. I mean, my own dad passed away in 2015 from Parkinson's. So there's a lot of parallels to my own life with Ozzy and what happened with him. And yeah, it's sad. It's like losing my dad all over again.
Yeah. So
yeah.
for me, I'm still incomplete. Like I said, I don't think it's sat in completely. I don't think it's hit me like a ton of bricks yet, because there's still that piece of me going like, he's just going to come out from behind the curtain in like 15 minutes. It's just how it works. But I've been listening to Ozzy all week, constantly, and obviously being a fan and carrying around my CD player and my Walkman back in the day around school and everything, and being the only person that was like listening to anything like that always felt like a merit badge, because everybody else was listening to Blink 182 and all this pop culture crap that at the time, and the early millennium, late 90s, when I'm carrying around my 45 seconds of anti-skip technology rocking out Ozzy. But that album that came out that I basically carried around was Gets Me Through, which kind of feel like what I'm trying to figure out now without that piece to it. And as far as all these things go, there's 2 songs that are in his recent that I have been just like, it seems like they keep coming on, or it's just like meant to be like kind of a thing. And he just recently, on one of his last 2 albums, he did a song with Elton John called Ordinary Man that is just incredibly good. And it gives me chills even just thinking about it, because the wording behind it, I don't want to say goodbye, but here I go. And, it's all this. It was all for you. That was the whole premise of the song. Him being paired up with Elton John in that song was also perfect. And then there's another one that he did on his most recent album, Patient Number 9, that is literally aptly named Immortal. And that song,
Right.
and rocking the living shit out of my eardrums for a better part of a week now. And it's with the guitar player Mike McCready of Pearl Jam is playing on that. And it's, the whole song is literally just like that. He'll never die. I'm immortal. And maybe that's the weird balancing act that's going on in my brain right now, why I haven't really figured out what the hell is going on. But at the end of the day, that character, the music, everything is truly immortal for Ozzy. He might no longer of this universe, but he gets to be back with Randy Rhoads, Lemmy, everybody all over again. So there's a piece to that whole thing that I think there's a comfort level that I know he's probably happy with everything that has been going on for him the last 10, 20 years.
It is an Ozzy Osbourne and Motorhead concert going on right now up in Evan, right? Yeah.
Hell of a show.
Yeah, hell of a show.
You now have the metal god of metal gods.
Yeah.
Guilty and present. Yeah. And speaking of stupid cameos, that's one of my favorite Ozzy cameos. He's in this stupid video game with Jack Black as the main character called
Brutal Legend. Yeah.
Actually the god of metal. So, and it's perfect. And that's all I'm going to say. Look those clips up because it's hilarious, especially the way they play on some of the words and everything like that. It's funny.
So my instance, when I saw the news and everything, as like a lot of people, complete disbelief. We just got a concert from him. Granted, he wasn't throwing buckets of water at people and clapping like he normally, and he wasn't standing, but I just saw him. He was right there, and then
it's one of those stories just like that.
And then all of a sudden, just all this rush of memories that revolve around his music came back, taking jigs to see Ozfest for the first concert. I remember what my first concert was, and to me, it was important for me to give that to my child. And then I remember a time when I was I had gone to visit family in Michigan, and then coming back and being in the car with my best friend Steve, and hearing the song Mr. Tinker Train for the first time. I'm going, what the hell is this? And then I hear Perry Mason. I'm like, oh, I'm sold. If you can write a song about a TV lawyer and make it sound fucking awesome, yes, I'm on board. But again, and then you see all of these, like I said, you see all of these tributes and feeds from celebrities that were influenced, and not even not in just the metal or rock and roll worlds. We're talking pop artists are paying tribute to a metal person, and it just tells you that his his popularity and his influence has transcended just beyond one genre of music, and I would put him up there in the same vein as, and believe it or not, and I'm saying this and you'll understand why I'm saying it, as like Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton's, celebrity and it transcends country music. People pay homage to her, and she hasn't done anything other than really country music. Everything she puts her name on is country, even if it's a rock song she's covering. Same thing with Ozzy. Ozzy, he transcends just one genre of music, and people have paid respects to that. And I came across something that I had never seen before, and I was scratching my head as to what is this? It was a collaboration with Pink and Steven Tyler, Scott Weiland, Ozzy's on it, and it's a charity song. It's a cover of Tears in Heaven, the Eric Clapton song. And I had to actually comment on whoever posted it and saying, how have I never heard or seen this before? I mean, it definitely flew under the radar, and Jigs will tell you, Craig will tell you, I'm a music collegist. I am a music aficionado. I usually can pull some freaking obscure shit out of my ass. That is just a metaphor, by the way. Anyways,
I sure hope so.
The fact that you had to explain that. I mean,
well, I've had some obscure shit, and it's just because of diet.
I
But
was
anyways,
just kidding.
but I would honestly say, if you have the opportunity, check that out, because it like I said, it's got Ozzy on it, it's got Steven Tyler on it, but to see Scott Weiland on there as well, and then it's just like it was mind blown, and it was like for the last 5 days, I've had nothing but Ozzy feeds on there, and it's just like, wow, and then believe it or not, I'm sorry, one more. But believe it or not, we lost another big name, well, big in Rochester, but jazz artist Chuck Mangione also passed away. And he's a Rochesterian, so anybody who knows Chuck Mangione, he came from Rochester, so it's kind of big around these parts, as Craig will tell you. But no, that's how I was feeling, and again, it brought me back to Ozfest 2010 and having my kid with me and just watching the look and knowing that the wheels are turning, and that kid right there is now a rocker for life. And that's, and to me, that's what I would say is my thank you to Ozzy, is having that moment with my child and giving us that, and being able to give that to her at the same time. So by all means, that's how I'm not going to cry, but that's where I'm at.
I was going to say,
need a topic.
Discuss. I was going to say, to your point, you're talking about how he transcended genre. I mean, that opening riff to Crazy Train's been sampled by hip hop artists and whatnot, on and on and on again. I mean, his music's been sampled numbers and numbers of times. It's just, that's who he was. He was respected by the entire industry.
I think to build on that, even Tim, you look at who he's played with over the last 10 20 years now, especially recently. I feel like he's kind of went and did himself the Carlos Santana treatment. He just finds all his friends, gets them in a room, and here's a microphone or pick your instrument up, and they just do it. He's had Post Malone. I mentioned Elton John, everybody that you can think of over the last year. Obviously, still calling on his old friends like Tony Iommi and everybody to be on his albums and whatnot, and Zach Wilde. And but I heard a crazy interview the other day with right before he died. Alice Cooper did a interview, and he was talking about how him, the Rolling Stones, Ozzy were, because he was talking about the concert he wasn't able to attend because he's out touring himself right now. And because he does every summer, he's got to feed his golfing addiction. But so in the midst of that, though, he goes, yeah, we all planned on doing this until the day that we died, because it wasn't about money. It wasn't about these things. It was their job, and they enjoyed doing it constantly. And to the point of where Ozzy obviously couldn't do it anymore, he goes, Ozzy's finally gotten to that point where his heart's in it, but he can't do it anymore. And to that point, Alice was getting choked up at that point in the interview, making it obviously sound like maybe he's not as far behind on that one too. But it's the other piece to that you got to keep going, right? But at the end of the day, he had all these great friends, family, transcended genres, and like I said, the fact that apparently he just found new musicians to constantly be around too. And like I said, I picked that album up, I didn't even know who Post Malone was. And I'm like, okay, this ain't so bad. And then same thing with Youngblood and some of these other guys he's collaborated with over the last few years. So it's really cool to see him be that giving to the industry as well.
Yeah, so Jelly Roll, I think, was in the concert with him, and yeah, unbelievable. I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, when he was inducted in 2024, had a whole bunch of people that paid tribute to him, and man, there's not going to be another Ozzy,
Not, and we had done an episode of the show, and where we talked about like iconic riffs, and just as a musician, you want to have a sound that is all yours, that you can have the opening, just the opening chord, and people instantly know who you are. Ozzy Osbourne had that in spades, and he also he has an iconic voice. Nobody is going to sound like Ozzy Osbourne ever again. And again, like I said, as a musician, that's the one thing you want. You want something that's going to set you apart from all of the other cookie cutter bands that are out there. There's a ton of bands that sound like each other. But again, we're I hate to say it, but we're losing our idols. And I know, I can agree with Alice Cooper it almost is a facing of our own mortality when we see the people that we used to look up to and idolize, and they're basically no longer with us anymore. And I feel that way too. I start looking at my age and going, damn, that's another one. Damn, that's another one. I remember listening to that, and I brought up Chuck Mangione. I remember just vividly being in the back seat of my parents' Tornado and listening to WLS in Chicago and hearing Feel So Good, and to me, that's just that one moment in time. And again, hearing Ozzy, and I can pinpoint specific songs and where I was when I first heard that song, and just being like, whether I was scared of the song or scared of the man or just completely into it all, from all points. It's just we will never have another Ozzy. But the one thing that I hope that we do is that we continue to have new artists get influenced by him and continue the legacy of what he's been able to do, and also pay it forward to people coming up as time goes on. That's, again, soapbox. I'm off of it now.
I mean,
I want to end on a high note, because this is starting to actually feel like a funeral a little bit here instead of an icon, like tip of the hat tribute kind of thing. So, Tommy, I wanted to steer the conversation to fun things. I want to go around the table, a favorite song, favorite moment that you recall of Ozzy, and we'll just go around the table and see. And you've been running the show. I'm going to let you run this one first.
All right. You know what? I'll just make it really easy, and I'll keep it quick. But obviously, the moment I was able bring jigs to Ozfest, and actually watching Ozzy play and just being in awe, and watching my kid be in awe of seeing another 9-year-old kid at that time wailing on guitar, and just again looking through my child's eyes and just see the wheels turning, going, I want to do that. And that, proud daddy, call me what you will, but to me, and I would have to say my favorite song is probably Perry Mason. I love that riff. I love Ozzy's voice in the chorus. It hits a different way for me. So I got to say Perry Mason off of No More Tears. So yeah.
Well done. So JT, I guess I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh geez. Okay. Crazy Train is obviously up there because, like, how can it not be? It's Crazy Train. It's like the most iconic Ozzy song. I taught myself how to play the main riff of it, and like it's an excellent finger exercise for sure. Sometimes whenever I pick up my guitar, I'll like
or you just
default
find out
to
your
playing
fingers
that.
don't work and you stick to drums like I had to do.
Hey, it happens. It happens. But like it's an excellent finger exercise, and like back to when you were talking about Ordinary Man featuring Elton John, like I listened to that song nonstop. Sorry, my cat is doing things. Come here.
She's having an Ozzy moment right now with
Oh,
the cat.
yeah.
Just saying.
She's a big fan. But one of the lyrics in that song just like really hits home. It's just he straight up just says, "The truth is, I don't want to die an ordinary man," and he didn't. And his legacy is going to live on forever. Just wanted to touch on that real quick because that lyric hits really hard, especially right now. But I think like I have two favorite songs. One of them is off the album Scream, I believe, called "Digging Me Down." Like
Great song.
that one's so good.
So heavy.
Oh yeah, like it's definitely one of the heavier ones. But like on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, the song haven't been able to listen to lately, "Mama, I'm Coming Home." Like it's a
Makes
ballad.
sense.
It's
Yeah.
so beautiful, and now it's a tearjerker, and
Mhm.
just it's so good. It's so good.
All right, Tim, your turn.
Yeah, I have two favorites. So like you, I go back to the campy Ozzy, and this video is one of my favorite videos of all time. I love "Bark at the Moon." That is one of my favorites. Just the video of him going, and so that album I played endlessly. And to your point too, Jocelyn, I loved "Mama, I'm Coming Home." That is one of the best rock ballads there ever was and ever will be. And you're right. It does, thinking out it hits differently now, with everything
Yeah.
that's happened. And my favorite Ozzy moment, I mentioned it earlier. It's Metallica opening up for him in 1986 for the Ultimate Sin tour, and unbelievable. Like I'll never forget that. It was my first intro to Metallica, and to this day still love Metallica. And so that kind of that combo was perfect for Metallica opening for Ozzy. It just worked. And so, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Good deal. So for me, I got a new and an older one. So I'm born in 1984, so that's literally like when Blizzard of Oz came out. So and I got into like going into the 90s, finding my music form and everything. And I remember hearing, at the time, not Crazy Train Up, No Rest for the Wicked's Crazy Babies, and that riff from Zakk Wylde. And I saw it on MTV, and exactly how do you it was perfect. It was so cool. It sucked me right in, and that's 100% was one of the foundation songs of my music tastes period, just because it was great drums, riffed out with him having the awesome dynamic of almost like arguing with himself a little bit in that song. It was fun. But then watching him go out on the highest of high notes on an album, that Patient Number 9 song that is on the most recent album, Patient Number 9, that song just hits so hard. And it's almost like you could have laid that song over the movie Shutter Island, because you don't know if he's actually in the insane asylum or not. And
Good
having
call.
Tim and Jeff Beck just rock the heck out on that song was a thing of beauty. But as far as stupid moments goes, and I think it's because I got to see behind the persona a little bit in the 90s and whatnot there with the Osbournes and whatnot. He was on television commercials constantly in the early 2000s, and it was for this thing, that thing. It was just amusing. But there was a couple that stood out to me, and one of them was that it was like for one of the first phones. We might have. It was like for one of the first phones that had a GPS on it. So he's like, oh, where do I go? And he's like walking around his mansion, and the GPS is showing him where everything is around his house. And he comes across a toilet, and he's like, oh, I didn't know that was there. And keeps moving along. And then like a few years after that, the phones obviously had the dictation stuff to it. And he was trying to talk to people like getting a coffee, and he mumbles into his phone with, Ozzy speak, and it goes, I would like a large latte. And back
Remember
to
that.
It was just so.
What the fuck is a beaver?
Yeah, what the heck is a beaver? It was just so perfect. Like I said, I've been to the concerts, I've listened to every album more times than I can probably even think to count. But those few things was just, like I said, you got to see the character, not just the persona, and he was dripping with that, as well as obviously the musical talent that he had. So I thought it was a really fun thing. But those two songs, like I said, just riff-tastic.
So
he played off himself.
Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say he played off himself, like you said, and anytime he goes, Sharon, it's just that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right,
We're getting
Sharon.
We lost Jocelyn. Jigs, her the Wi-Fi cut out on her. I'm gonna try to get back on, but we're pretty much at the end of the show. And as you know, Tim, we always do shameless self plugs. And being as you are our guest, I'm only gonna venture a guess and say you probably got something lined up right now. So tell us what you got for us.
Well, I'll plug our podcast with Charlie Around the Bases. We have Pop Culture and Sports Podcast. We're releasing a new album. See, you got me thinking album. We're releasing a new episode later this week, so we got some fun stuff coming up. Talking everything going on in sports and pop culture, like you guys.
Yeah.
When
my Blue Jays
have us on your show?
Yeah. Good stuff.
We want a guest spot on the show there, Tim.
Yeah, come on. You're welcome anytime. Absolutely.
Came on.
Absolutely.
All right.
So I got a couple of things. We're coming up in up. Jigs is back.
Yay,
Maybe.
Jigs.
Kinda. Hey.
Okay.
Yay.
Saw her on the other side. She's back.
Had a quick visit with Ozzy. It was fine. He's chilling.
Hey, Jigs, we're doing shameless self plugs. Do you got anything you want to plug? Do you have any things that you want to promote that you're a part of or anything like that?
I'm really boring. I don't do a whole lot. I'll be back again someday for, I don't know, horror
More
games or
nerding out.
something. Yeah, more nerding out.
Yes. We're going to be doing survival horror games with the one and only JT Mock.
Oh.
I'll be there. I will be there. And I will talk endlessly about Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, other games, probably.
So, Jigs, just so you know, Tim also runs a podcast as well called Around the Bases, and it's sports and pop culture. So I know you're not big into sports, but Tim
Pop culture.
definitely is a pop culture guru. Keeps us on our toes, helps us out when we need him. He's one of the honorary members of our panel, if you will. But so in my shameless self plugs, coming up, the Flint Hill Dance Troupe will be performing at the Genesee Country Village and Museum, as we always do, for the Fiddle and Folk Festival. And I get to be out there and act all P.T. Barnum for everybody, because that's just what I do. And so we got some good performances coming up as well. Also, I will post on our Instagram page that we have auditions coming up for Spirits of the Past, as well as the Yuletide programming for the Genesee Country Village and Museum. So if you're interested, there is a form you fill out, and an online form, and then you can come in on August 23rd and do an in-person audition. They can do virtual auditions as well, but you have to have that clicked on your online thing like that. So other than that, that's all I have. But just remember, as I always say, support your local musicians, support your local museums and local art, because if it's not for you, we will lose that stuff. And I will end my tirade right now with, again, quoting the immortal Ozzy Osbourne with maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. Craig, off to you.
That line was a lot better than your quasi Bob Barker pitch there about your pets and neutering and
Don't forget to control the pet population. The game
Gonna
show
neuter
reference
this
I always
Craig.
get.
Neuter my Craig.
It's a roast, deal with it. So anyway, as you all know, I also host a Blue Jays podcast. We have been having giveaways. Actually, literally just gave away this one in a contest the other day. And I have to send it all the way to Puerto Rico. So it's a good thing that shipping's not terrible to Puerto Rico, because otherwise
Wait,
I might be able to afford
is that a Chris Bassett jersey? Oh,
is it Chris Bassett basketball jersey?
Oh, wow.
that they actually
Former
gave away at
Met.
the stadium, and I don't have a wonderful place for it in my collection. So I'm going to make sure it's getting given away. And if you are interested in Blue Jay paraphernalia or baseball period, head over to Birdwatching or Jaybird Watching and at Birdwatching GC for all the giveaway stuff. So on all of our social media, we're trying to pick a week that each one's going to have a giveaway where me, Jason, or Liz are going to be finding something to, more or less give away every Friday home game. So, and
Nice.
if you have a child in youth sports, I cannot say enough things about going back and watching this last week's episode of Jaybird Watching, because we had Travis Snyder on the show, former Blue Jays right fielder, and his post-baseball career is actually about mental health in youth sports. So that's the focus of his whole brand that he is doing at 3A Athletics. I highly recommend it. Check it out. Not to mention, he is a wonderful goof. His nickname is the Lunchbox Hero. So just put that in your brain and see how that works. So check that out. It was a good time. And we also have the Major League Baseball trade deadline. So it's going to be a crazy week in baseball.
I have a little Blue Jays fact for you real quick.
Go ahead.
David Schneider on the Blue Jays, of course. His sister was on We Are Family with me. So there you go.
Really?
How about that?
Davis.
There you go.
Matt Davis, he's a fun guy.
I'm trying to get Davis to come on the show.
Him and I were on a panel together last year, right when he got called up. It was really cool. He's a great guy.
Neat.
By the way, Craig, I got to say, because the little bit of sports baseball that I do follow, congratulations on beating the Yankees on multiple levels.
We love that. We love that.
Tim's a Mets fan.
I'm a Mets fan, so I love you beating the Yankees is perfect for me. I'll root for the Blue Jays over the Yankees any day. Absolutely.
That's been working out strangely well lately. The
funny thing is we have not done a sports-centric show yet. I'm surprised we haven't, but it's so much. There's so much, because I'm I'm not the biggest baseball fan by any means, but when it comes to like football, I'm a football fan. I'm a Michigan
Go
Wolverine
Bills.
football fan. Go Bills. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
I had to get my baseball card buddy on with you, me, and Tim.
Absolutely, dude. I'm going to the National this week in Chicago. So yeah, absolutely.
Take pictures, send them my way. You're gonna run all
absolutely.
my friends at We the Hobby is the company I work at. So
absolutely, we'll do.
All right. On that note, shenanigans aside, thank you everybody that's still listening. I see all three of you in there. Don't worry. Yes, record. I'm just kidding. So, anyways, thank you very much for listening to TNC Random Fandom. Make sure you listen to us wherever you get your podcasting pleasures. Every Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, we are going to do our best to make sure we are here live with a new topic and new guests to make sure we have some fun and goof around and talk all things. And thank you, Ozzy. Much appreciated. We obviously are very missing you already. Cheers.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, guys.